Just for the next few minutes, I just want to share with you on the topic. We are not perfect, but are you at least trying? We are not perfect, but are you at least trying? One of the things that we need to accept in life, and probably from the religious community, the spiritual community, we need to let people recognize that we are not perfect. Sometimes we give the people the impression that Christianity is a one of perfection. One of the things why people don't want to become Christian because they can't see themselves living up to this high standard that we have set, and many times cannot reach. So we need to recognize that we are not perfect, but are we at least trying to be perfect? The Bible says, be thou perfect as I am perfect. And so therefore perfection is something we move towards. We always strive towards being that perfect. What does perfect mean? That situation or status that we have reached. We have arrived at the pinnacle. Would we ever reach to that we are so perfect? Some people think that they've reached there already. But we will not reach them. So there is a chance that we can be imperfectly perfect. So there are things that are not there yet, but given the fact that we recognize who we are and the limitation that we have, we are imperfectly perfect. And so I want to share with you from the book of 2 Samuel, the book that we are in for this month, just a few things that I want to share with you. So 2 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 1. When you have it, say amen. You don't have it, find it first and then say amen. 2 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 1. And it came to pass that the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had about 2 days in Ziklag. I just want us to just stop there just for a while to just give a context. David is just returning from slaughtering and killing the Amalekites. But who are the Amalekites? Remember, there's a story in the Bible about two brothers that were born. Esau and Jacob. Brothers. One was older than the other. Who was older? Esau was older. Jacob is the younger of the two. But we find here that at a point in time, Esau was hungry. He said, I'm so hungry that I go into dead. Was that really the truth? No. But because he wanted to get things to eat, because Esau is a very fleshly, materialistic human, Jacob was the more spiritual one. And so Esau said, because I am so hungry, the birthright that I have as a firstborn, I'm willing to sell it. If you have a bowl of porridge, I'll buy it. You could take the birthright, I will take this. There are some people who can't make good decisions in life. The things that they give up for something else, you tell yourself, but these people can't make a decision. There's a gentleman who used to drive around with his car. Loud noise. The trunk is full with speakers. The back seat full with speakers. And he'll drive the village up and down with all of this noise. And then all of a sudden, we see him without the vehicle. Where is the vehicle? The bank repossessed it. Spent on speakers and would not pay for the car. How could that make sense? And there are people who think like that. Esau was that kind of person, very, very impulsive, and if I want it, I will get it, and so made fleshly decisions. And so he sold his birthright, something that is traditional, something that is prestigious, sold it for a pot of porridge. Got his pot of porridge. Well, they both had children. Esau had children, and when you look at the generation of the children, as you read in the Bible, one of his generation was how will you pronounce that word? Right. That group. the Amalekites came under Esau. Jacob, his younger brother, brought into being the people that we call the Israelites. So you have now the Israelites and you have the Amalekites coming under Esau and coming under Jacob. They are warring and they are fighting. God said, because of what you have done, you will always be fighting and war in your family. Here's what happened. I'm going now to 1 Samuel chapter 15. 1 Samuel chapter 15. God said in verse 1. See if you could find me there in 1 Samuel chapter 15. You have it there? Right. Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint you to be king over his people, over Israel. You will rule over Israel, the Israelites, the descendants of Jacob. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way, when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 1 to 3. God said, I remember these people did some wicked things when they came out of Egypt. Because the Amalekites are such plunderers, they took the weakest people in the Israelites, slaughtered them, stole for them, and did them wickedness. And that was since in Genesis. We are now in 1 Samuel. And he says, I have not forgotten what they have done. Years later, I am now going to take revenge on them. And God has said, he sent Samuel to speak to Saul and say, Saul, your responsibility is to go and destroy everybody who are the Amalekites. Now, I want you to follow me. The opening text said, David had just come back from slaughtering whom? The Amalekites. But this is 1 Samuel. How come the Amalekites are still around? When Samuel said to Saul, this is your responsibility. Well, if you read the story, you'll hear that God gave Saul the responsibility to destroy everybody, animals and everything. Why? Because they have done such wickedness. I don't think that they're going to recover. They will always be like this, destroy everybody. Saul went, slaughtered everything, everybody, and saved the king. Saying that, well, you know, we thought that some of the animals, they're quite nice and unblemished, and we could do some good sacrifice to the Lord. There are people who try to justify their wrongdoing by giving it a religious spin. You with me? It is wrong. God never did command it, but if we put a religious spin on it, oh, it's Christmas, it's the Lord's birthday. God didn't command it, but let's celebrate it. So we absent ourselves from the worship that God said on the first day of the week for the whole year. But we give it a religious spin in December. Oh, the Lord. Easter. Well, this morning in my where I live, I did not know there were so many religious people until I saw them dressed up this morning. So it looks as though we need another Easter for them to leave their homes to come out on a Sunday. You see, because people like religious ceremonies. And so, if we live in a religious ceremonial life, we feel as though I must be a fairly good person. And what we do is have a lot of ceremonies in order for things to happen. You know, recently we just had where people were wearing colored socks. Yeah? To recognize Down syndrome. Yeah. One of the things the businessmen have recognized is as long as people could believe stuff, we could make money on them. Yeah? So egg sell for this Easter. Yeah? Egg sell. We would have fish selling at high price for Lent. Christmas, we'll have a lot of postcards and so on. And so all of these socks. Here's what I'm thinking. So many people wore these colored socks. bought it by a businessman to highlight Down syndrome, how much of that money went to Down syndrome people? What would we have done? How much would we have blessed these people with Down syndrome if we had taken that same money and I'm contributing it to the Down syndrome? You see, once we couch it in religious niceties and good favors and so on, we justify ourselves. We're doing a good thing. You see? And so, that's what Saul did. Put it in a context that we are doing it because we didn't destroy everybody. You said destroy everybody, but there was such... I know you like God, these animals that are unblemished, and so we saved them. And yes, we saved the king. And by the way, it's not me really did that, They, the people. I didn't take responsibility. They said save. And so this is where we are now. Because he did not do what God said is why now in 2 Samuel, David having to now come back from slaughtering the same Amalekites. Now here's what I want to say. All of that was just the introduction. There are issues and unfinished business in your past that you have not dealt with, that years later you'll have to face and deal with. All of us, if you think of your life, all of us have some aspect in our past that we did not conclude. People in our lives that we should have gotten rid of, that we kept, that we have to deal with years later, and now have to now ditch them when we should have ditched them long time. There are attitudes and behaviors and personality things that we have that we should have gotten rid of. It is destroying our lives and destroying our relationships, and we never dealt with it. We kept that same bad attitude, that same bad way that we have to deal with years later. There are vices, sin, things that we do that we should have given up, that we have not given up. It's not making us any better. That we did not deal with, unfinished business that we have to deal with years later. David had no right to be killing Amalekites at this point in time if Saul had taken action when he was commanded. And some of the things that we suffer from, some of the problems that we go through in life, unnecessary problems, because we did not deal with some stuff that we should have dealt with. Spending habits. We don't have to suffer the way how some of us suffer financially had we just changed our spending habits years ago. There are people retiring, still renting, have no place to live. Why? Because there are decisions they did not take that they should have taken a long time ago. There are these children who are disobedient, who are rebellious, that a parent should have laid down the law years ago and did not lay it down. You see them on Facebook? I saw one recently. Family bought this son a truck. Teenager, just about 16, 17 years old. Bought him a truck, but didn't buy him a new truck. Bought him a fairly old truck, but running good and so on, because they said he's going to bang it up anyway, so let him get it practice before we could buy him a new truck. Blindfolded him, brought him out and surprised him. And so he's blindfolded and said, "We have a surprise for you." Yeah, yes, what is it? See if you could guess. Is it a truck? Because he always wanted a truck. When they took off his blindfold and he saw the truck, he said, "You kidding me? This old truck?" And he marched off, went inside of the house, came out back with a baton and whipped that truck, mashed it up. And he said, "You want my friends to laugh me to think I'm poor?" At 16 years old, how come he has that attitude? Somebody did not do to him and give him what he was looking for years ago. That you could now buy a truck to surprise your son, and he insult you like that and mash the truck up and say, my friends will think I'm poor. Very impressive. And this was Esau. Esau was a man who liked to impress people. And wow, now he has to deal with it. I'm telling you, we have to ask ourselves, what's the Amalekite in my life? You know, because we're not perfect. So we're not saying that people have to really get to the point where they are so pristine and their life is so straightened out and so on. You will never get there. But at least are you trying? So another aspect of Esau and Jacob is that Esau was very fleshly. This is why he wanted porridge. This is why he was prepared to sell things, because he wanted to own stuff and so on. And Jacob, head of Israelites and the 12 tribes and so on, was probably more spiritual. There's always going to be a war going on between the flesh and the spirit. Always. Regardless how good a Christian you become, regardless how long you remain a Christian, you'll always have a war going up where the flesh comes up against you and fights you as Esau and Jacob, as the Amalekites against the Israelites. There'll always be that. And so we have to ask ourselves, how do I deal with this? Here's how you deal with it. God said, utterly destroy the Amalekites. Get rid of the flesh. The Bible says, put to death the things of the flesh. So there are things in our flesh that we are subject to, that we have not killed, that still remains alive to haunt us. But how can I get rid of all of the issues that I have in my life? Can I really? Paul puts it this way. The things I want to do, that I don't do. And the things I don't want to do, that I do. Oh, wretched man that I am. This fight. I want to be a good Christian, but I know I have this weakness. You're not perfect. But are you trying? You understand me? So you are going to try every so often, and you're going to fall along the way, and you will regret. But you get back up, and you say, listen, I am going to try. I'm going to try to get to that stage in my life that I am going to rise towards perfection. And that's what we want, is that war. And Paul said this, I die daily. Every day, I try to put something to death. So for today, my speech, I'm a harsh person. I talk things that insult people and embarrass people. I'm going to put that to death. I'm going to work on that one today. Because I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. I'm going to stop the foul language. I'm going to start speaking some things that are encouraging to people. And I'm not going to use all of these foul language and so on. Why? Because I'm dying daily. I'm putting that one to death. I'm getting rid of the animals. I'm getting rid of the king. I'm getting rid of the Amalekites one by one. What do you need to put to death in your life? What is it that you are struggling with that you need to put to death now so that you don't have to be fighting with it tomorrow? What is it that you need to kill and mortify in the flesh? Because we all have something we're struggling with. And let me tell you, because we are struggling with something, makes us imperfect. But it would make us perfect. And Paul says, therefore, make no provision for the flesh. Provision means providing for the sustenance of something. Provision. So when I make provision for my family, I'm providing for their sustenance. And the Bible says, don't make provision for the flesh. Don't provide things for it to sustain. And I think of that. And have you ever had a situation where somebody is dressing provocatively, inappropriately? Let's take it to the woman just as a thing. Don't take it personally, but let's just do that. Wearing clothes that are not Christian life. And then decide, I think I need to get serious with Christianity. So I'm going to stop wearing those clothes. What do you do with the clothes? chances are we fold them. Iron them. Well, not in that order. And then we put them away. Why are you still keeping them? Why are you leaving that Amalekite alive? Why don't you just utterly destroy it? Because you're telling yourself, I am not going back there. Just burn the clothes. Don't make provision for the flesh. Whenever I lose weight, I try to buy clothes for that new weight, because that's the size that I'm trying to get to. And I like when I buy the clothes for that. But here's what my wife tells me. Whenever, just recently, I put on back some weight. So I had to, my wife is telling me, give Joel, my big son, the small clothes. You know what she's trying to tell me there? You ain't going back that size. You ain't going back that size? No! That, I want to keep those clothes because that's the direction. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. I'm trying to get back that size. So I'll keep that. The ones that I will give away are the big clothes. Because I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Those I'm giving up. What do you do? Sometimes we make provision for things we don't want. And we have to start saying, for the Amalekites in our lives, we need to start utterly destroying the things that we don't plan to deal with again. Because it takes a lot of trying and failing and trying and failing. And that's the beauty about God. The difference between David and Saul was a trying man. David was not perfect, as you know. Committed fornication, adultery. Then he committed murder of the woman's husband. And then he turned around and married her. That's not a perfect man. But at least he was trying. So he wrote Psalm 51, my sin is ever before me. Wash away my sins. And he said, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. God isn't looking for perfection, and thank God, because we would not have made it. But he's looking to see if you're trying. And then when he saw the effort of David, he said this, that he's a man after my own heart. How would you take a murderer and adulterer and make him a man after your own heart? Because he's trying. Are you trying? Sometimes people have become so carnal that every time they have to make a decision, the carnal and the flesh always takes first place. Just like Esau. So, I'm hungry, so I don't care anything else about what happens, and so therefore I must feed that hunger. He does not make a spiritual decision. He makes a fleshly decision. He's not perfect, but he wasn't trying. And there are some people not prepared to try. Have you ever heard some people say, when you point out to them a sin that they are involved in or something that they're doing wrong, well, everybody can't be perfect. I'm not perfect. It's as though they're telling themselves, well, those are people who are not trying. So let me keep my eye on the time. Because I'm trying. I'm trying here. I'm trying. When we came down to the later part of 2 Samuel, the Bible talks about a story there. And let's see if we could quickly go there, 2 Samuel chapter, we're back in chapter 1. And it came to pass on the third day that behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul with his clothes rent, and earth upon his head. And so it was that he came to David, that he fell on the earth and did obeisance. He's now coming to David. Saul is dead. Saul is his father-in-law and somebody he loved. Saul's son was David's best friend. David's best friend's name was Jonathan. Right, I expect the people in Canaan who inside of that book to answer. At least. So David's son, Jonathan. So having heard, this man is now coming to tell David that Saul and Jonathan and his men are dead. David said unto him, from whence comest thou? Are you all with me? And he said unto him, out of the camp of Israel am I escaped. David said unto him, how went the matter? How did that battle go? He said, I pray thee, tell me. And he answered, that the people have fled from the battle. People start to scatter and run because battle went bad. And many of the people also are fallen and dead. And Saul and Jonathan his son are dead also. David said unto the young man that told him, how knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan is dead? By the way, how do you know? If a battle is going on, how come you are aware of who's dead in this battle? And here's what he said. The young man said, I happen by chance. I don't know if Trinidad and Tobago go to war and the war taking place in Crown Point, that I happen by chance to be there to see that war. No, I'm gone. I'm sorry. Fighting is going on. I would not know who dead. So something is wrong with this story. So and I want you to pick up what is probably wrong with this story. And the young man that told him said, I happened by chance to be upon Mount Gilboa. Behold, Saul leaned upon his spear, and lo, the chariots and the horsemen followed hard after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me. Saul looked around. Saul had been injured. He looked around, he saw me, and he called me and said, come. And he said, here I am. And he said unto me, who art thou? And I answered, I am same set of people. These are the enemies, the Amalekites. And he's saying to David, I am an Amalekite. David is an Israelite. He said unto me, stand, I pray thee, upon me and slay me. This is what Saul is telling him. Saul is saying, I'm injured. Slay me, for anguish is upon me because my life is yet whole in me. Which means I'm injured. I'm so badly hurt. I am going to die. But I'm still alive and I'm in a lot of pain. And before these people come and take my life, could you kill me, please? This is what he's saying.